What is going on, guys? Jason Burke here, Styles Clash for Life, coming at you on YouTube, and today I've got another edition of The Drive-In, where I watch recently released films, usually horror, and tell you guys whether they're worth watching, worth waiting for, or worth skipping altogether. And today I'm covering one of my most cautiously anticipated movies of the entire year. It's one of those movies that it's a franchise that I've grown up on and stayed with and been current with and seen in theaters as they come out, but it's also in a lot of ways run its course. It's a very controversial one today that is going to hit with some and miss with some others, and I'm here to give you guys some pretty strong opinions for this movie, and that is Saw X. It is the 10th Saw that has come out, 20 years after the original or whatever it was. And I think, for myself, and I have not done a franchise ranking of this, I don't believe so. I might have, but I don't think I have. I'm a huge fan of the first three. I love the twist in the first one. We've all seen it. 2 and 3, I think, are excellent sequels that tie things together and have a lot of cool twists without being overly contrived. And then once you get past the first 3, I think it overstays its welcome. They try to keep it going. And they kind of try to over-twist things and overcomplicate things and over-connect things, and it just kind of becomes a muddled story with a confusing timeline that really only features good traps and becomes about the torturous kills, and everything else kind of gets lost. So when they said they were doing Saw X and they were going to do a sequel that comes after 1 and before 2, basically a sequel of 1 that's a prequel to 2, I went, oh man, it's really good to see Tobin and Shaie Smith back. I'm really glad they're bringing back the OG characters that mean the most to the franchise. But the timeline is already so confusing and so muddled. And some of these sequels and requels and things, it's so confusing already that this might just mess things up and change the lore and kind of ruin some of the earlier movies for me if they don't do it well. So let's see if they did it well. I went to see it opening night on Friday. It is Thursday of the next week when I post this video. I am 6 days late posting this video. It's been a busy week. I apologize. But I want to bring you guys my full thoughts. Spoiler free, not going to spoil anything, going to talk around it as much as possible, so go see it if you have not. But here is my spoiler free review of 2023's Saw X. This film was written by Pete Goldfinger and Josh Stolberg, who wrote a lot of the kind of weaker entries in the Saw movies, like Jigsaw and Spiral, for me anyway. Directed by Kevin Gudder, who is a big horror editor. He's done a lot of horror editing. Also has directed Jezebel, directed Saw 6 and 7, so kind of the final entries in the original 7-movie series, and starring Tobin Bell reprising his role as, Jigsaw, Shaie Smith reprising her role as Amanda, and I hope I can pronounce this correctly, Synnöve Makodi Lund, I'm so sorry if I butchered that, as Cecilia. And the basic story of this film, without spoiling anything, just trying to use things from the trailer and kind of talk about it as a generality so as not to spoil anything. This takes place after the first movie, and Tobin Bell realizes he's dying of cancer. And he goes to cancer support groups, and he realizes, oh, there's a chance that I can go get this miraculous surgery with this new technology and can possibly take away the cancer and help me to go on living instead of being terminally ill. So he travels to Mexico to go get this miraculous surgery. Obviously, as you would suspect, considering we know what happens in 2 through 9, the surgery does not go exactly as planned. You know that by the fact that he's in the other sequels and dies in 3, obviously, so you know this surgery is not going to go exactly as he wants it to. But taking Jigsaw to Mexico was a risky proposition, but I'll tell you what, I kind of enjoyed the change in location. Let's get to some big positives. Number 1, the environment. This feels like a Saw movie. Obviously, Kevin Gudder, being an editor and being big in the Saw franchise, knows how to edit a Saw movie as the director, and I think he also was the editor in this, and did a really nice job. The editing is slick. There are some nice transitional things. There are some good, unique camera shots they use to portray things. They use some kind of lighter and darker LUTs on the flashback things, so you know exactly what's leading into what. You know what the flashbacks are. You know what's current. Things aren't overly confusing. The editing ties in together nicely, so I really enjoyed the environment and how much of a Saw film this felt like. I feel like the last couple Saw films haven't really felt like Saw films. That ambiance that Saw has is hard to match, and it's a rare thing in the horror genre to get a movie to feel like Saw, and this one did that in spades. I also liked the new environment in Mexico. You have a house that Tobin is staying at. You have kind of the hospital kind of lair area where things are happening at. for the surgery and for some things afterwards. I really enjoy that. That environment not only is nice and spacious and beautiful for the upbeat scenes when things are happening early, but later when things get darker and all the traps and bad things start happening, you get this kind of dingy basement feel that is wide and cavernous, but also has that dark seclusion feel when people are trapped in the traps. So, nice job with the editing, the environment, and the camera work all around there. Backstory. This is really, really big. They not only bring back a lot of these fan service characters like Tobin and Shaie, but you get more backstory, you get more reasoning. My biggest knock on the later Saw films, namely 4 through 9, are that, again, the story gets lost, the story gets contrived, the characters become just there to be part of traps, and the movie becomes all about torture and traps and gore, and not about the story, whereas 1 through 3, in my opinion, have phenomenal stories. This story is as good as any in the franchise. I would put this as a story, as an overall story, and as a fleshed out character situation, as maybe the best in the entire franchise, even more so than 1, because 1, you have the 2 concurrent stories that are kind of confusing early and then get fleshed out later, and then you have the big twist. In this movie, you really get inside of John Kramer's head. You see him start to design traps. You see a reason why he starts. You see him on the prowl kind of looking for people that deserve to be in traps. You get reasons for why everyone is in traps. Everything happens for a reason, and you see the early beginnings of what the John Kramer character would become as he becomes Jigsaw. You see him kind of using his background, using his mind. You see through his eyes what he's seeing and why he's seeing it. That is a wonderful thing to happen. Not only does it give us a reason for this movie that has a good, clear story, one of the best in the entire franchise, but you get a backstory for our main characters, and you get more of a digging into why Jigsaw is Jigsaw and not just this pseudo-killer. I love that about this. Another positive, Jigsaw as protagonist. Again, I'm not going to spoil anything, but you do kind of empathize, more so than ever before, with John Kramer in this. Jigsaw becomes a protagonist in a lot of ways. You see him struggle, you see him sick, you see him searching for hope, you see him gaining hope, you see him losing hope, you see him bonding with other characters, you see him betrayed by certain characters, you see his loyalty, you see him not just as a moral compass in terms of like, we're not trying to kill anybody, everybody gets a chance, because we see that in this film, but you see his morality play out on his face and through his health and through his relation to other characters, old and new, the entire time. John Kramer making this turn as protagonist really gives you someone to root for, not just someone to try and survive a trap. He's probably the strongest protagonist in all of the films in this franchise, and I love his character arcs in this, for better and for worse. I love it. Amanda, another positive. Shawnee Smith is back as Amanda. She's a favorite of ours. We all love the OG Saw characters and the trap survivors. And not only, again, do you get Amanda returning here, you see more of her closeness with Jigsaw. You see more of her emotion surrounding Jigsaw. She becomes more emotional, not in an aggressive way, but in a sadness and a contemplative way that we don't see in the other movies. We see her be aggressive, we see her be angry, and we see her lash out. We don't often see her sitting with her thoughts and conversing with her mentor in that full relationship, which we get in this movie. We also see her relating to certain characters more, feeling bad for certain characters more. You see more thought processes go through her head, and you can empathize with her more. The way they fleshed out Jigsaw with a story, Amanda gets that in spades in emotional differences and ups and downs. I really love Amanda's character in this, showing more depth and more personality than we've seen from her. Wonderful. Also, where are we? Good villains in this movie. Yes, you have your standard characters that did something wrong and belong in the traps. Yes, they are all hateable, and there's reasons why they're all in the traps, and you kind of want to root for them to die because they really suck. And they provide a nice foil for how good of a protagonist Jigsaw can be in this. But all the characters have these moments of emotion inside these traps, and you, again, not only are you kind of rooting for them to lose because you're getting that Jigsaw gore trap fun stuff going on, but you can empathize with some of their emotion. And the main villain, again, who I won't call out because I don't want to spoil anything, has a lot of complexity to themselves. They feel like an equal to Jigsaw. If you're going to have Jigsaw kind of be a relatable, good character in this and see more of Jigsaw's processes, you need to see the processes and the counterbalance with a really good villain, because that usually is the Jigsaw Amanda team. So to get a really good villain that has complexity, it feels like they're on Jigsaw's level for the first time, who can outsmart Jigsaw in some ways, is an excellent balance that is hard to find, and this movie did that very, very well. The acting around the board is very good, and these main characters that I read off are excellent in this. Also, traps. Obviously, when you're watching Saw, you want some cool traps. Nothing's going to stand out quite to the level of like the bear trap or the car trap with the Lincoln Park guy in 7 or the Amanda Needle trap in 2. You're not going to get any of those level traps in this. You get a pretty cool trap fake out in this, and you get some pretty solid ones where they dive into the gore. The traps themselves are not super, super unique, but they are cool. While none of them are like all-time level traps, they're all solid. And inside these traps, you do get that gore and grotesqueness that you've come to expect from Saw. There is a lot of gore in this, but again, they're characters that you hate, and there's reasons for why they're there. So yes, it can be a little bit excessive to those that don't love gore, but those that tune into Jigsaw wanting gore have that gore, and they get it accentuated by who the characters are in this film. Fan service. We get a lot of fan service. There are a lot of callbacks. There are a lot of lines in this movie that can be kind of read as funny in certain ways. If you watch it again, you get a different context. There are a lot of lines that are important or funny or, resonant because we've seen 2 through 9, so we know what happens to these characters in 2 and 3, and we've seen 1, obviously, so we know some of these lines change their meaning based on what is said, which is a really cool, fun thing for fans to watch. There's a lot of fan service in this. Again, we get a couple characters we love. We get a couple little Easter eggs and callbacks to things. And I'm not going to spoil anything, but watch it all the way through. We get some good fan service that the fans of the originals will appreciate. This is something for newer Saw fans that like the newer sequels, but very much so for the original Saw fans. So a nice blend of audience catering in this movie without feeling like it's pandering. Twist. The twist at the end, it's a plus/minus because there's some contrivances, but they always give you a good twist with the Jigsaw voice and the music at the end that you come to expect with these movies. This one delivers as well. There's moments where I was thinking, how are they going to deliver this? And yeah, it's a little bit jumping the shark, but they do deliver a cool twist, and you're like, I didn't necessarily see that coming. Pretty cool that they did that. Also, I'm just going to say this part, post-credit sequence, watch it. Not going to say why, not going to say what it is. If you see the credits start rolling, stay in the theaters, do not leave. There's something really cool and worth your time in the post-credit sequence. Big positive there. Negatives. I only have 2 negatives. Number 1, there are some contrivances. There are some things that aren't necessarily very likely to happen. There are some things with the traps that are a little and part of that twist at the end, the last 15 minutes, is a little bit like, a lot of things had to align. Everything had to kind of fall into place for this to happen. So there are some contrived things that are a little bit like, yeah, that's jumping the shark. But you do kind of suspend disbelief considering what this movie is and what the traps are and stuff like that. So little contrived, but I'm not going to hold it against it too much. My only other big negative in this, honestly, is they didn't de-age Amanda. Again, this is supposed to be happening in 2004, 5, 6, where Amanda was super young in 2 and 3. A lot of films like Scream are de-aging characters a lot now, and Saw probably could have done that. Tobin Bell as Jigsaw, you can believe him looking old and haggard because, again, he's doddering, he's dying of cancer, he's getting bad diagnosis, he's stressed, he's hurt. So you can believe him aging, even though it's a kind of a sequel to 2, or sequel to 1, prequel to 2. Amanda does not get de-aged in here. I love Shaie. Shawnee's a great person. I've met her. She's beautiful. Her acting is great. I love her character. I love her as a person. But they could have tried to kind of de-age her just because you see her here before 2 and 3 happen, and then you go back and watch 2 and 3, and she just looks very different. She just looks younger. It's father time. I'm not going to hold someone's age against them, but I'm just surprised that the company didn't try and de-age her. They gave her a wig, and I don't know, the clothes and the wig and everything was a little weird for me. Just the look of that character was a little strange, but I love Shawnee's acting, and I love her as a person, so not trying to hold that against her either. But again, this movie is all the charm of the original Saw movies with more backstory, characters better fleshed out, more emotion behind it, and then you get the torture and the gore and all the Saw type things that you have come to know and love. This movie is 1 hour and 58 minutes, one of the longest ever in the Saw series, but it spends time with John and then Shaie building things up. You get the traps in the second half, but the pacing is still pretty good. While not perfect, they give you time to sit with the story and not just get into random gore for random reasons. The characters matter, and especially our main characters get fleshed out in a way that's better. It doesn't change the lore, but it adds to the lore. So if you like 1, 2, and 3, and especially the original, you're going to like this movie. There's something for newer Saw fans here, but there's more for the original Saw fans. If you like the charm of the first couple, of the story and the emotion behind what leads to the violence, this will give you that. Well acted, well edited, well shot, good twists, OG characters, some solid new characters, a nice spin with Jigsaw in kind of a different role, good antagonists to fight against him. This movie is a lot of fun. I would put this right up there as one of the best. Story-wise as the best overall, and movie-wise, rivaling 2 and 3, up there with 1 maybe is the second best in the series. 1, 2, 3, and 10 are by far the best, and I have a hard time placing them because Saw X is really good. I'm going to give this one a 7.5 out of 10. I think it's probably in my top 3 horror films of this year so far. So if you've seen it, tell me in the comments below what you thought of it. Give me your comments on my review as well as the movie, and where do you rank this in your Saw franchise rankings? Where do you put this? Is this as good as I think it is, or am I just overrating it because the last couple have been so bad? Please like, share, and subscribe. Talk to me in the comments. Hopefully you enjoy the movie. If you've not seen it yet, go check it out. It's still in theaters, and it is well worth your time, Saw fans. I want to play a game. This has been Jason. I'll see y'all later.